Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another thrilling discussion today. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am your hostess with the mostest. I am so excited to have this talk. Another wonderfully snowy day, and when I just get, I'm inspired basically the high majority of the time. I'm a winter person, and when the snow's coming down and it's snuggly, I got the fireplace going. Little Giovanni taking a snooze on the chair next to me. The creative juices are flowing. And today I'm once again inspired by Sarah Von Brednek in my friends group, author of Simple Abundance. And she talks today, which at least for me, this is a great day to have this discussion because she talks about creating a sacred space for yourself and just reminding my listeners that when I'm inspired by Sarah, her book Simple Abundance, a day book of comfort and joy, is specifically geared towards women, though it does not matter how you identify because that's just her focus, which is great. But we all need, we all need a sacred space. We all need, and regardless of the size of your, apartment or home, or condo or whatever, um, there's a way to create even a corner. I'm thinking of like a freshman dorm room. There's still, a desk area or a little corner we can use what used to be called a Chinese wardrobe. I'm sure they don't call it that anymore, but the little zigzaggy thing that can kind of block off space if you've got a situation where you're living in an urban environment, space is tight, things like that. But there is a way. So Sarah starts out by saying, Joseph Campbell uh, has a quote that she begins with, which says, "You must have a room or a certain hour of the day or so where you do not know what was in the morning paper, a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. At first, you may find nothing's happening. But if you have a sacred place and use it, take advantage of it, something will happen." And I have to tell you right off the bat, and I realize how blessed we are, and I can use that word. I love using that word. You have to be so careful these days, but I guess it's my podcast, and I can use the word blessed if I want to. So there you go. Um, Very blessed. We are very recent empty nesters, my husband and I, and we're out in the country. We're way back. We're way out there, and so we've got a larger home that's now the whole downstairs is empty, and our daughter, our youngest, turned what was one of her sister's rooms into a Zen den when she was here over the summer before she flew the coop on us just about a month ago to move to Denver. And it's not a huge space at all. I mean, it's nice that it's my own now, but it's not big. In fact, I don't know that a big space would work as well for a Zen den because the whole idea is simplicity, right? And you can count the things in there on one hand. There's a couch. It's kind of like a day bed, I guess, but it's a couch with throw pillows. There is one lamp. There is one bookshelf. There is a small fireplace, like a faux fireplace. And behind the curtain, there's a very rustic, triangular shaped little tree with little lights that go on their own, and a salt lamp, and that's a tiny salt lamp. That's it. Okay, that's basically it. I think there's a mirror in there. That's that, and it's so simple that when I walk in there, especially when the faux fireplace is going and the salt lamp is on, it's just this. It's got a hardwood floor, so I can do my stretching in there, whatever. It just invites creativity. The creativity just flows through me, just flows, flows, flows. Sometimes I make movies down there. Sometimes I do podcasts down there. I'm also writing a book, and that is absolutely my spot of choice, at least during the winter, because I can write outside too. But right now, it'd be a little chilly. Um, it's just I can't even tell you. But for as far as the inner life and and serenity and just going inward, that is my personal um sacred spot right there. So Sarah says that talking about herself, I resisted creating a sacred space for myself for a very long time. The excuses were, she writes, one, I am not a nun and altars belong only in churches or convents. Two, I live in a very small house and don't really have any space to set aside. And three, I didn't want my husband, who respects and honors my spiritual quest but doesn't share it, or my daughter to think I was extremely weird. Those are all very valid questions to not want to to create a space. But I'll tell you, of course, her book was written a long time ago. I mean, now with the crazy in a good way, well-being trend, at least across the states, is really picking up speed with mindfulness and gratitude and everything. I think in this day and age, people think you're less weird, but depending on who you live with, I guess. And then she says, but I kept discovering other women writers whom I admire and whom I don't think are weird at all, such as Joan Borysenko and Julia Cameron, oh, I know her, have created sacred spaces for themselves, and the concept intrigued me. Julia Cameron is, without even looking, I know exactly who she is. She's the author of The Writer's Way. Oh, no, Artist's Way. It's called The Artist's Way. Sarah writes, but Julia writes about The Artist's Way. And I have her book somewhere. It's probably on that one bookshelf downstairs in my Zen den. And she's the one who came up with, as far as I know, morning pages, where you just kind of throw it all up when you first wake up and empty your mind. And she encourages people to do that when they're having any kind of artistic block, like a writer's block, or it doesn't need to be writing, but something, a block. You're trying to start a business, you're trying to whatever, and just bleh. And so it makes, I'm not surprised at all that Julia Cameron is a big fan of creating a sacred space, because she's all about it. And then um da, 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 that and then she says that one day in meditation, my authentic self suggested that I become open to the idea of creating a sacred space to celebrate, concentrate, and consecrate my inner work. And then she says, okay, I said, I'll be open to it, but I don't know where I'll put it. The very next morning, I was propped up in bed writing my daily dialogue pages. When I looked up, I saw, and she saw, I'll do like air quotes, nobody can see me, so I'm telling you, with my inner vision, a small blue bench up against my bedroom wall, surrounded by white light. Flash! It was exactly like the one discarded on our porch. I leapt out of bed in a burst of excited enthusiasm and started gathering meaningful objects that evoke love and gratitude to me from various scattered places around the house. A half hour later, I had created a sacred space that delighted me. Man, we just got to stay there for a minute, because there are several components of this that make what Sarah's saying great. The whole feng shui idea, because creativity, for most people, you might find, we're all wired differently. You might find someone who enjoys a loud, chaotic environment, but most creatives will tell you they're out in nature, such as myself. I'm out in nature every chance I get. In fact, it was hailing this morning. Now it's, I don't know what it's doing, but it's very pretty. It's snowing, I guess. We'll call that wintry mix. That's what we call, like, that's a nice way to say, like, yuck, wintry crap. But it's beautiful right now. It's like actually snowing. And I'll be out there with little G creating, even in a snowstorm. A lot of, and also anywhere that involves a body of water, such as the ocean, which would probably be the number one for many of us. It doesn't have to be that, though. A lake, a brook, where I walk in the woods with little G, which is gonna be my writing spot this summer, because the caretaker actually put a picnic table way out there. Like, it's, you gotta walk to it, and, for hikers to sit and have lunch or whatever. But my plan is to be up there very early once the weather permits, to write with little Giovanni there. So those are also my sacred spaces. But the point being is that nature, because it's naturally inspiring, and also simple. Nature is simple, right? And so Sarah talks about her house being small, and she managed a way to put a bench up there, and some light is big. We need bright light. We want it to be inviting, which is the whole principle, not the whole principle, it's exaggerating, a largely a principle of feng shui, the Chinese tradition of making spaces inviting. So the idea is, you have to ask yourself, what would make me want to be in here, right? I want to be sitting on that bench writing. If you don't want to, and you can just tell by your behavior. Currently, it was interesting, I was doing another episode a little while ago, saying this was exactly where I was, and that was the truth. And it's also, this one is exactly where I am again. And I'm a thrower. My husband's a like rat-tatouille, a pack rat. And which I can't stand. So I have to get rid of stuff when, he's not looking sometimes. But I would never throw anything away that was important to him. I'm talking about aged calendars and things that you just don't need anymore. That's like very obvious. But anyway, currently our bedroom is hurting my head. It is because it's about, I don't know, 6 weeks after Christmas, and I've been traveling a lot and haven't had time to just get rid of boxes and stuff, and it's actually, at this point, hurting my head. Clearing off surfaces, I just can't stand it. Interestingly, I'm not as much as of a neat freak with, like, deep cleaning, like, under the behind the refrigerator, under the stove, because I figure if it's above my eye level or below my knees, I really don't need care that much, to be truthful. I care a lot about clutter. I care a lot about just this an openness. I'm a freedom person. And this is really what we're talking about. We're talking about a creative space. You want it to be bright, you want it to be open, you want it to be simple, and you want to be able to, move around relatively easily. So that's not a place for knickknacks unless it's something, maybe it's something your grandmother gave you, who was your everything. Like my grandmother was my everything. So maybe to put one paperweight on the desk that reminds me of her, that's okay, right? Well, I mean, it's all okay. It's your space. But as far as if you really want it to be sacred and conducive to creativity, you want it to be as simple, open, well lit, and inviting as is possible. Now, this part is cool because I do not have a meditation table. I also consider myself to be more of a practitioner of mindfulness, but let's just see what Sarah does. I'm a big fan of her. She says, "Now, let me tell you about my meditation table, as it is now called by the family. And if anyone thinks it's strange, they have kept this opinion to themselves." That's in parentheses. The dark blue enamel bench is only 18 inches long and 8 inches deep and is against my blue bedroom wall. A small white linen and crocheted lace tablecloth covers it. On the table, I have a large golden pillar candle sitting in the center, a beautiful Victorian lithograph of an angel representing the guidance of my guardian angel, a print of the Madonna and Child in an oval gold frame representing the male and female natures of divinity, a small gold frame mirror for my authentic self meditation, pictures of my family and pets, a small blue and white china vase, a wedding present for fresh flowers, rose quartz crystals representing the natural world, a rose patterned incense holder, and a small bowl of rose and jasmine potpourri. Hanging above the table at my eye level, whenever I kneel or sit, is a beautiful print in a gold frame by the artist Michael Podesta that represents the essence of simple abundance. The table is only about 2 feet away from the foot of my bed, so that the bed supports my back comfortably when I sit and meditate. This encourages me to meditate more often. Wow. So I just got done saying about, keep it simple. But I think this is a little different because that's a separate meditation table. Do what you like. I personally am a less is more person. However, there's some good things about Sarah sort of designating a meditation table, which I think is great because she has a lot of meaningful things. So if that, I guess it's whatever works for you. I'm definitely a less is more person. But the meaning, if it brings you meaning, and she talked about encouraging her to meditate more often, that's all good stuff. So whatever makes it things easier to go inward, then I would say, do your thing. And so and then she says, after I pulled everything together, I consecrated the table with a small ritual of blessing. Afterwards, I was surprised by the powerful sense of positive energy that seemed to surround the table. Of course, now I know that this energy is love. Love created this space for me once I became open to it in my life. The objects displayed on the table represent all that I love and for which I am so grateful. So there you go. That's what works for Sarah. And maybe there's also an in between. Like I'm definitely a Zenden, a Zenden person. And I'm also Catholic. I believe there is a cross in there actually right above the door. That doesn't, I mean, whatever, it doesn't need, we're not talking about religion here at all. Certainly bring in whatever you want to bring in to make whatever it is meaningful to you. So, in fact, speaking of, monasteries and convents and things like that, the nuns and priests are all, and I've actually been in one convent. It's a very long story that I'll have to save for another time, and it's also very humorous because I kind of landed with these wild and fun nuns. I was going to say by accident, but I don't believe in accidents. But anyway, Um, Nuns and priests are obviously keep their living spaces very, very simple. And I'm sure that's true for other organized religions too, even though that's not really the focus of our talk. It's about creating a place where you can be your most spiritual, because we are talking about spiritual, authentic self. And in addition to the spirituality rolling right through you, you cannot separate the spirituality from creativity, because that all that spirituality is coming from the divine within us. And so we're talking about creating a sacred space where you can go within and live your very, very best life doing what makes you joyful. This is what we're talking about. So create a sacred space today where you can just let your spiritual and creative juices just flow. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the gorgeous, snowy, and snuggly northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.